This is Ben Shalom, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Let's go.
Right, this is Rico. We're Sporting Icons here with the man himself, Savage Dan. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Happy New Year. How's the start to the new year been for you?
It's been slow. It's been quite slow. What is it? The fourth now. I think I was a little bit lost until it hit a Monday, and until I had to start doing school runs and stuff like that. I'm kind of a little bit lost, but I feel like today's the second day where I feel like I've got a bit of a routine back. So like now we can just focus on everything.
I mean, I absolutely understand you there, brother. I mean, like because I was off on the Monday, but Tuesday, as soon as that alarm hit, oh my God, I wanted to leave my soul on that one.
Yeah.
But no, it's obviously good to have you here, brother. Obviously looking for an incredible year for yourself and Boxer. Just kind of want to get a little bit in depth with you. So what how did you kind of start within and get into presenting for Boxer? Obviously your humble beginnings in terms of, I know you from HC Pod and seeing you with Chucky and everybody.
Yeah.
But for the boxing fans and stuff, how did you get into everything?
I don't know. I'm not a presenter. Even at Boxer, I'm not a presenter. But I am the I would say I'm like Boxer's Milner.
Okay.
I could if
you can do a job.
Jump in and present something, I can present it kind of thing. But obviously I'm not a presenter. The box well, I was in boxing from before. And I was actually on the other side, I was doing JD's stuff with Matchroom. Probably the middle of last year, actually, up to like maybe July, August of last year, I was still doing a lot of the other side stuff at the time. But I was still working with Boxer, but I had a podcast with Paulie Malignaggi called The Mouthpiece, which actually started with me and Ben Shalom. Probably around 2 years prior to that, we had probably all the episodes are gone now. But me and Ben had a podcast, and we would speak to people on the pod. And this is years and years, probably 2019 or something like that. Wow. When COVID hit, they had one of the only TV shows at the time at first, which was on ITV and BT Sport, and Ben asked me if I would be like one of not the presenters, but one of the anchors. You have the main guy on ITV, and they will usually throw somebody, and I would be that guy, and that was my first ever shot at live TV. I'm not shy with cameras, everyone knows that, but as in I'm not used to having feeds in my ear and we're coming here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it was daunting, but it was a good experience. So I kind of played both sides for as long as I could, I guess. There was no real competition between Boxer and Matchroom at the time. And then obviously the moving of the pack and the shuffling of everyone and the broadcasters, all of that created this big split. And I most people weren't, but I was caught actually in the middle of it, whether I go and be a bigger fish in a small pond at Boxer, which had huge potential for growth. You can just see it.
Yeah.
Or you carry on with what's safe and what you know and what you trust to a certain degree. And stick with Matchroom, but you can't do both. Yeah. You can never do both. And it wasn't Matchroom, and it was JD, but because they're so heavily connected to Matchroom, it is basically
Matchroom.
You're a Matchroom guy. You know what I'm saying? So I had to make a decision, and I made the Boxer decision. And Boxer have had a super good year. I've done almost everything when it comes to. I've taken a press conference. I've been Ben Shalom in his absence. I've done the media stuff. I will present something as well, so I'll be the MC. So it's weird. Anyone who's looking for the outside in must be like, what is this guy's role? But the real truth is, I could do it all.
But that's incredible, though. I mean, to kind of be able to like adapt in, because I pretty much that's why I obviously said you're presenting and stuff like that, because I've seen you do it a lot, but. Looking back in hindsight, you actually have kind of been everywhere in terms of, the whole show.
Top table for the Cornbrook fight. Top table for the Eubank Liam Williams fight, because there's more behind the scenes that gets done, basically, and it's than what it seems. I'm one of the ones that they'll push to the forefront as well. It's a big operation, man. There's a lot happening, and like loads that is obviously under embargo, and that, and there's just so much happening that, you know, like I am one of the ones that's just like, all right, cool, we've got this. This is what you can say, like, give it to the media.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at well, Chris had just announced this massive card that you guys have on the Liam Smith bill. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? You know, we can go from top to bottom. Let's start with Joseph Parker.
I mean, look at Joseph Parker. I mean, look, we saw what his fight against Joe Joyce looked like. It was ridiculous in the same arena. What a good fight. I don't know how Joe Joyce took some of those shots. But it was all action. Like, what a fight. Jack Massey, for those who don't know, is all action. He's campaigned at Cruiserweight, so a lot of people won't know him on the heavyweight scene, but he stepped up. He wants to bring drama. So that's a fight where you know, Joe Parker will want to get some momentum back, and will want to look good in winning, you know.
Would you like
he might not get the credit he deserves because he's God.
Oh, sorry, Dan. Sorry for interrupting you. Would you like?
No, he might not get the credit he deserves for a win against Jack Massey, because Jack Massey has been a career-long cruiserweight rather than a heavyweight.
Yeah.
But it's a good fight.
Would you liken it to Dillian White's return fight?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Because no one knew Jermaine Franklin from a barrel blue soap, to be honest.
Exactly. You go and do your research on him during fight week, you realize, oh no, he's got fast hands. Oh no, he's got the. You think he might be too small for the heavyweight division. More so, I thought that with Franklin, because Dillian's quite imposing and he wants to bully you in the ring, and Parker isn't necessarily bullyish in the ring. He's sharp. He wants to hurt you, but he doesn't want to bully you. So it is a similar kind of fight, in the sense where you do anything other than win well, and you'll probably have critics at you.
Yeah.
But if you win well, you probably are going to be told that you should have won this well. But Jack Massey, he's no pushover. He's had tough fights with big cruisers.
Yeah,
big cruisers. A great fight with Riatpur as well.
I mean, looking at just the cruiserweight section, we've got Riatpur versus Glowacki, and you know, Glowacki's obviously had quite a few opportunities, especially at world level with a world title against Okolie. How do you see that fight playing out with Riatpur?
I think it's the perfect dress rehearsal for what should be the world title shot next in Mugabe. I think Glowacki's one of those guys who he's fought absolutely everyone. He was a very good cruiserweight. You know, when he was probably in his prime. He has got a slingshot left hand that you have to be careful of, because he does loop it in, and he can do it. Have we seen the best of him? Probably not, but hopefully yes, for Richard's sake.
You think he'll come up?
I expect Richard to be too.
You think Richard will bring him up for this one?
Maybe. The thing is with Richard at the moment, obviously with Angel, he's making Richard maybe more patient. Have a look a little bit more. So I'm not sure if that it will certainly suit Glowacki in terms of pace. But when Richard goes to end it, unfortunately, there's not really anything you can do about it. He hits too hard. He's got long levers, and the shot that you get hit with is probably one that he's set up. And he's been chopping him down with left hooks to the body as of late. And it's the same kind of cruiserweight. I reckon he might try and whip an uppercut and do the left underneath the elbows and end it again. But I think Richard will just be too big, too strong, too focused, have too much momentum, because he knows this is the last stop now for the midnight train.
Yeah,
he knows what comes after. It's a potential, you know, world title ambitions. And as soon as you put on gloves for the first time and you bang them together and you look at the bag and you think of what the pinnacle of this sport could be and where you would want to be, it's world titles. And he's got the WBC. For me, it's like the most prestigious of the belts.
Yeah.
So if as long as he's switched on, I think he does him, and I think he does him inside 6.
Who would you say is the most improved out of React 4 and Chris William-Smith?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how much you'd be able to tell that until they're back in the ring with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure people probably know by now that that fight was almost agreed for the Bournemouth night, which is almost ludicrous because I don't know
It was
why
almost
either
agreed.
of them would accept that fight at that stage. It was almost made. That fight was almost made. And they're both knocking on the door for world titles. So like it's strange. It shows how fighters think. They think they can beat anyone. They don't really care that, oh no, maybe I won't fight him because if I lose, then I said no. They were both in a position where they were just like, no, I'll win that fight. So Chris is obviously he's improved lots. But his I would say it's been a steady improvement because he's been with Shane. I think that the entirety of his
Yes,
professional career.
I think he is.
So Shane obviously he's one of the best coaches in the world. He knows exactly what a certain fighter needs. I like coaches like Shane because he can make more than one type of fighter. If you look at them all, they're all very different, and he plays to their strengths. With Riappor's definitely improved, but more than it's an improvement, I think it's a change.
A change in
He
mentality,
was
aggression.
a wild fighter. Maybe a change. It's still there because he hits hard enough, so he doesn't have to be
sure.
aggressive with it. But he did used to have that thing where he would go to war in loads and loads of domestic fights, and now he seems to be winning these fights without wars. So it's definitely an improvement there, as long as he can keep that animal mentality that yes, I can go to war as well. I just don't need to go to war every single fight. Both improve loads. I'm sure that's a fight that everybody would want to see again. Hopefully, if they both pick up world titles and it's for a unification, who knows?
Sorry, Dan. How many times do you think that each I mean, I know. Hopefully, we got a little bit of the inside know-how on this one. But how many times you'd like all of the cruiserweights to actually fight this year from a boxer standpoint? So you've
I
got
think three. I think three's three. I think three's safe. For where they are in their careers, it's weird because you look at someone like Fraser Clark, and because of where he is, he'll want 5.
Mm-hmm.
He'll definitely want 5 because he needs to. He just wants to get. You almost have to do that thing where you go through fighting a bunch of guys that you know you're a level above, blah 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 blah. But you have to do it. It's just how you gain the experience rather than just going straight into world championship fights. I think 3 makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They might not get 3. Chris might not get 3. He needs a bit of a rest. He's had 2 not hard fights, but as in he fought in July and then he fought in December. We might not see Chris again until May.
Yeah.
Who knows? You know, and hopefully we can get something done at the Vitality Stadium. But 3 is, I'm sure if you ask them, is preferred. If you ideally you'd want like one in March or April, then one in the fall, and then one in the winter, basically. One in summer, one in the fall. So if I mean that's the perfect world, but unfortunately there are so many fighters that need fights and dates, and guess what? It has to be the right fights with the right opponents.
Of course.
So it's not as easy as that, you know. If for example, Opete is not available until June, then we might not see the fight until June. You know, an injury knocks things over 6 weeks, or so I'm saying. So in an ideal world, I'm sure everyone would say, yeah, 3 times a year is like it's optimum at this stage for them to be fighting, but you might end up with 2.
So in the ideal and a perfect world, you'd want obviously Chris for the IBF, Richard for the WBC, both of them slotting in nicely at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's it. That's what makes the most sense. I mean, you don't have to go into an immediate fight with each other, but
the only reason that I say that is because it's if we look at the Tyson Furies and the Anthony Joshuas of the world and look at these, I mean, obviously it may not be as big as a scale, but it just seems like we just never ever get to taste that cake. Do you know what I mean?
We will get them. They're both at pretty much the same age. There is history, there's a story, and if they're both world champions, 100% you get it. Whether you get an interim fight or maybe, remember, neither of them are mandatories for either the WBC or for the IBF. So they might win the belt and then the mandatory might get called. You never know. In a perfect world, yeah, you probably would try and get them to fight each other. But you know, once you get these belts, sometimes you're just like, no, let me have one, because you might need to fight somebody similar to a Chris Smith in order to just get a little bit closer to fighting that style. He's been fighting southpaws for a little bit now, so you never know, you might need something to swing it back around. But yeah, essentially that's the goal. You get some world titles, you fight each other, and you unify. Everyone's under the same banner. The world cruiserweight division is pretty much here in the UK now, even though the world titles aren't here, except for
it looks Lawrence. Like it's under Boxer.
It is. It looks like it. And you know, if we can then get Lawrence in the mix somewhere, you know, that's a big one, because look, I know Lawrence and Chris are trained by the same trainer, but down the line, interesting fight potentially. Who knows? You know, stranger things have happened in boxing. So I think the cruiserweight division in the UK is probably the most exciting one at the moment in terms of what's brewing and how it can it's almost there. You know, just a few more correct turns and we're there.
Just actually touching on Okolie, have you heard anything in regards to maybe his next fight? As we understand from what he said, I know that he's been going through his difficulties with Eddie and so on and so forth, but from what he said, he's under Boxer. Is there any news in regards to
Has he said that?
Pardon?
Has he said that?
Well, there was an interview that I had actually watched on IFL. I think that he said that he's not in contract. Ben said that he wasn't in contract either. So one would only assume that not being under contract with Matchroom, he'd be.
Well, we know he has a fight coming up, I think, with David Light.
Yes, purse bids, I believe, are going to be called for that fight.
Yeah. So we'll see where that ends up. As it stands, I'm not sure where we are or where anyone is in terms of like legal proceedings. But as it stands, I'm pretty sure that's still a Matchroom fight, or he's still a Matchroom fighter. We'll bid. We'll see what happens, and then we'll take it from there. There's no point. Look, just for boxing's sake and for Lawrence's sake, there's no point keeping sitting on the shelf for that much longer. Not when the cruiserweight division is almost where the cruiserweight division needs to be. I know he has aspirations of going to heavyweight, so we'll see what happens there. But first things first, get back in the ring.
Yeah.
And see where we are after that.
All right, that's absolutely brilliant, Dan. Thank you very much. And obviously, we had spoken a little bit earlier about him, Fraser Clark. I can't see an opponent there. Do you know who he's going to be in the ring with?
Not yet. Yeah, it'll be announced imminently, shortly. He just needs to be busy right now. And I think his loss, look, he beat Sokolovsky just easy.
Yeah.
That's probably the best I've ever seen him be beat.
Like the GOAT of journeyman, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, like he's no journeyman. Do you know what I mean? Like, if
of course. He takes fights very late.
Exactly. But he gives people the world of trouble all the time. No one really beats him well. But Fraser is, I think, he wants to show the world that he is that level above, and they don't give out Olympic medals, and that he does deserve, you know, as accolades, and also I think him teaming up with Angel as well, like Riakpo, I think it's tidied him up as well. He's been known for being in firefights all the way through the amateurs. Now he looks a lot tidier. I know the level of opposition isn't necessarily going to exploit that yet, but he needs to be busy and he needs to fight often. So that's why he's on this massive card as well, you know, and hopefully he takes care of business and is on to another busy year for him. And you're looking at titles. You know, who's got the British title? Fabio. Fabio's got the British title right now.
Would you
There
say
will be plenty
he's
of
ready for that
heavyweights
fight?
across the board. You'll have to ask him. I think he would take that fight tomorrow.
Of course.
Probably on bad advice from me, but I think he would take the fight tomorrow. But that's the thing, that the British title is prestigious, and you probably want to go that route. You know, there'll be plenty of people looking at Fabio Wardley now thinking, I fancy that fight. I want that fight. And Fraser Clark will be one of them. Of course he will. You think he's going to skip out the British title? He's going to want that, and he'll want it this year.
I mean, that's looking at other fighters as well. You know, with boxer, would you match Troy, or maybe you might think it's a little bit early, obviously, Fabio, but would you match Troy with maybe a Stephen Robinson?
Match Troy?
Yes.
Troy who?
Oh, Fraser, sorry. I'm so
Sorry.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I was literally like, oh my God. I'm gonna try to get that out.
I almost just said yes. I almost said yes. I almost said yes.
I was thinking about Troy Williams. I'm so sorry, dude.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That was the first one that came to my head. Look, I think, I think, look, Fraser Clark will take any of these fights. I think he even said it on the broadcast. That he fancies it. Of course he does. That was a big fight and a big moment for Steve Robinson. Yeah. Because that was a crossroads fight. I think bookies would have had him as not the favourite. I'm not sure how wide it was. But he pulled something out the bag when not many people expected him to do so. I think it would be not crazy, but as in, I think the last thing he might want to do right now, having got back on, steady ground, after an upset, he's got 2 good wins under his belt now.
Yeah.
The last thing he would want to do is probably go into a fight straight away with Fraser Clark, one of boxer's prospects.
Yeah.
He might tell me differently, and he might actually fancy it. And if he does, then it's an easy fight to make. Of course, it's an easy fight to make. Mm-hmm. You will probably have a better idea as to where Steve Robinson is and if he fancies it right now, or whether it's time for him to have perhaps a fight that is an in-between fight before you start kicking on. Unfortunately, in the heavyweight division, there's nowhere to hide. You have to kick on eventually.
There isn't. I mean, having spoken to Stephen and having spoken to him and interviewed him before the fight, he knew it was all over his face that he had to win that fight. Obviously, yeah. I know the things that were kind of going on with him when he had that loss, but incredible heart, and obviously Nick, I interviewed. He gave me some of his time right after the knockout as well, and I didn't put that interview out because I just thought, you know what, he'll be back, and it's only one loss. What do you actually think about that, actually? And obviously, just a couple of questions left. The O in boxing right now. Yeah. What's your opinion on sort of fighters like you got the Charlos of the Charlo at 160, who Andrade, maybe not so much Andrade, but some of these fighters like Tank. What do you think about fighters trying to preserve their O?
I don't mind it as long as you don't do it for the entirety of your career. There are plenty of fighters. The thing is, in boxing, it's a cruel sport. You take the big risks, but if you don't come through them, guess what's on the other side of it? A lot of criticism for you. You don't take the big risks, you might keep your O, but you're probably going to have some criticism as well. But at least that criticism is easy for you to almost sidestep. You can create excuses as to why things don't happen and blah, 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 blah. I don't think it's in a fighter's mentality more often than not to bottle fights. It's a prize fight, and a lot of these big fights come with big money. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're necessarily scared to fight each other. The O is a thing, but it's only a thing until it's gone. And as soon as it's gone, it's not necessarily a weight lifted off your shoulder, but you realize that you don't have it to protect anymore. Now you fancy fighting absolutely anybody. Some fighters don't improve until their loss because they've been almost papering over cracks. The O is what you make it, I think. If you're Money May, that became very much a part of his identity. And for Andre Ward, after a certain level, if you've still got your O, you almost render yourself unbeatable. Yeah. You're unbeatable, and you know I like that if you can get there. But it doesn't matter. I still have Manny Pacquiao, and Pacquiao's got however many losses. Loads of my favorite fighters have got loads of losses on it. It's good whilst you can have it, but once it's gone, I don't think you should dwell on it for much longer than that.
No, that's absolutely brilliant, Dan. Just a couple of predictions for you here. So obviously we have Eubank versus Beefy Smith. I am a big Beefy Smith fan, I'm not gonna lie. I think he's completely come back from that loss to Mongui. Who do you have edging this fight, or who do you have outright winning it?
It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight. In situations like this, I usually do the promotional thing, the promoters thing, and I go for majority draw just to cover my back. Liam is obviously our fighter.
Yes.
He believes in himself 100%. He knows it's a tough fight, and Chris Eubank will obviously do that thing where he takes the 60%. Higher ground. 50%, you know, he'll do all of that. He'll antagonize Liam Smith, and in many ways, Liam is the perfect dance partner for that because Liam will bite. Yeah. Even when he doesn't want to, he'll bite. It's just his personality. He finds Eubank frustrating, which is why it's such a good and intriguing matchup. I think they'll be back and forth in that fight. There's a part of me that thinks Eubank, with a size advantage, might be a little bit too big, but there's also another side of me that absolutely knows Liam Smith is far cuter than people think, and he's very aware of that size advantage. He gets inside, he sneaks over to his left and whips shots. I'm gonna back our guy.
Yeah,
it's the only thing I know how to do. But I am put it this way: if I bet on it, I would not be shocked if it went the other way. It's that good a fight. Yeah. And this is the only way you can have pay-per-views. No point having a pay-per-view fight top of the bill if you know who's going to win.
Exactly.
There's absolutely no point. So it just shows how good this card is. I think when it was announced, there was a few grunts about whether it is pay-per-view. I think you'll realize as this card develops and as the fight comes, as they're walking to the ring, yeah, no, this is definitely pay-per-view. Yeah, I'm gonna back Liam Smith. I think it will be close, and they might have a scare in there at some point because I do think Eubank's improving, but I think they're both improving. I think Liam Smith is as good as he's been as well. So yeah, I think what the things that Liam Smith does very well, I'm not sure if they're that tangible. I'm not sure how much you can see them. He's very, very good at working that mid-range.
No, that's absolutely brilliant, Dan. Final prediction, and then the last question. Usyk Fury. It looks like it's going to be made, and it looks like it's going to be just under 30 quid, which I'd pay 35 quid for that. Well,
is that what it is?
Yeah. Well, from what Frank Warren has said to Umar the other day, the pay-per-view price would be about £27.50, something to that effect. Yeah.
I think it was something like that for the on anyway. Yeah. It's expensive. But it's not just this is undisputed.
Yeah,
it's undisputed. This is the one where I think you can demand whatever you want to demand. Two great fighters, but I'm going to be honest. I held a bit of corn for this answer. I said I think this will be wide, really wide. I don't think it won't be close. I think it'll be wide. I think some people fail to understand that you can have a 120, 108 fight that is close. If I edge every round for 12 rounds, doesn't mean it wasn't a close fight. It just means I won every round. I might have snuck every round. And I think we'll see something like that. I think Usyk is super good. Probably the best technical boxer
of this generation
in the heavyweight division. Bounces around, shoots that straight left very, very nicely, comes around with a right hook. I just think the distance might be too much. I think the fact that Fury can go to you and fight you from the back of the room at the same time almost. Punch with he can punch on the move. He doesn't have to really get set. I think he can do a lot of the things that Usyk does. And the thing is, even if Usyk does start to find success with a left hand, we have seen Tyson Fury fight entire fight southpaw. If he wants that left hand further away, he'll just turn southpaw. So I think this will be one step too far. In many ways, Usyk was the wrong fighter for AJ, but I think Fury is the wrong fighter for Usyk.
I think that's a really, really good prediction. Actually, didn't think that it would go white either way. But if I would have to say, I would probably either say Fury by knockout or Usyk by points. I know that's
you know what? I watched
a
couple of the fights that Fury struggled in a couple of days ago, just to like see if I'm missing something.
What McDermott with Dermot and
was it Otto Wallin?
Yes, Wallin. He had the cut, didn't he?
He had the cut. It was pretty much an off night. In my opinion, that was a completely different Tyson Fury. Anyway, this one seems very different. One punch knockout power.
Who would you say that he's better under, a Ben Davison or under the Kronk gym with Sugar Hill?
Kronk, 100%. I think he's far more scary. Fighting someone who's 6'9", but you go and find him, and he kind of slips and makes you look a bit stupid. But you usually navigate your way out of that fight is one thing. Fighting someone who's 6'9", that's jittering and on you, throwing his jabs, flicking a feint, and then knocks you out. Far scarier. He doesn't even let you get started now.
No, I mean, absolutely right, my brother. But Dan, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. It's been an incredible interview. Again, hopefully we can line up another interview for later on in the year, or closer on to the Eubank Smith. I know I'm going to see you there. But thank you very much, my brother, and I hope you have a lovely evening, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Have a good week.
You too, my brother. Take care, Dan.